It's not. Is it 45? Isn't it? I think it's 44. Yeah, 44 plus 6 for the height, because that's the hill right there. That's the height of the person, and h is defined as the height of the point of view. So you plug that in, so you get d is equal to the square root of 2 times 50. And when you see that kind of number, should you feel happy? Yeah, when you get nice things like that. So 10, and what's the distance? 10 miles. Is this equation going to be accurate for really, really big numbers? Not necessarily, because is the horizon, can you arbitrarily make that? Can you see, if you went really, really high, there's a limit to how far you can see, right? You know, you can't make it infinitely big, but it's a cool model. Okay, next question. What does that mean, 1/4 power? What does it mean, Connor?
It's 625 to the first power, and then you're taking
the what root?
The
4th root. That's what it means. So you're asking yourself, what times itself how many times? 4 times, right? So if you're assuming there's a nice answer, you have a strong suspicion it's going to be what? It's going to be 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. 125 times 5 is 625. Yeah, that's what it means. So this is exponential form. Exponential form. And this is radical form. Power mean? What's the only thing you do? What's the thing you do first? What does negative power mean, Alex? Yeah? What do you do?
It's
1 over 64 to the 3/2. Yeah. The only thing the negative does is it moves into the denominator. The only thing the negative does. Now we just attack it separately and put it in the denominator. What does to the 3/2 power mean? Can someone tell me what it means? So it's 1 over what? Someone tell me what that means. It's the square root of 64 cubed. And that was the other path. That's going to make it bigger than smaller. We'd love to make it smaller than bigger. So reverse that order. It's going to be is it the cube root? Careful.
It's the square root of 64 cubed.
Square root of 64 to the 3rd power. That we can go smaller than bigger. Does that make sense, everybody? The reason that's the case, we can put an intermediary step in there if we want. That's 64 to the 1/2 to the 3rd, right? Because 3 times a half is what is 3 times a half? 3/2. The reason this is nice is because you're going smaller than bigger. So you're doing the square root of 64 to the 3rd power. What's the square root of 64? 8. So you have 1 over 8 cubed. 8 cubed is a little bit bigger than I expect you to memorize. 8 times 8 is 64. So you need 8 times 64. It's 480 plus 512. So that's big. You could leave that one as 1 over 8 cubed. That would be fine. If you didn't have a calculator, you don't have to do it. It'd be nice if you did, but you don't have to. So Zoya said you could do it. What's the other way you could write this? You could write it as 1 over 64 cubed to the 1/2 power. Why is that a harder way to do it? You have to do 64 cubed first, and then you have to find the square root of that, right? So try to go smaller first. Try to go smaller first. This right here is huge. And you really I wouldn't want you to spend the time doing that out by hand. Okay, any other questions from the home? To simplify this, so does converting to radical form really help you that much? Can, maybe. Maybe at the end.
I missed that -3.
Yeah, there's a -3. So what do you do with that -3? What do you do with that -3? You distribute it in, right? Exactly. Right, you got it. So let's distribute it in. It goes and down too, right? It goes to all the powers. So you have 2 to the 6th, w to the 6/4, x to the 15/8, right?
It's 9 over 4.
9. I can't actually multiply this morning. Thank you for catching that. W to the -9 over 4, and x to the 3 over 2. Now, what could you do at this point to these fractions? What could you look for? Do any of them simplifying? Can you move any of them, right? What can you do with this one right here? Can go up. So what is this going to equal? 2 to the 6th, w to the 9 over 4, x to the 15 over 8. I'm just rewriting the numerator. And then w to the 9 over 4 all over x to the 3/2. Now, are there anything we can pair up here? How about the w to 9 over 4 and this one, right? What do you do with the powers of powers? Well, it's not if you have the same base, what do you do with the powers? If they're multiplied, you add them. So it's going to be 2 to the 6th, w to the what? 18 over 4. And then what do you do with the powers here? It's x to the 15 over 8 minus, because what do you do with the powers here? You subtract, right? So you need a common denominator up there, right? So you have 2 to the 6th, w to the 9 over 2. I'll simplify that, right? Because 18 over 4 is 9 over 2. And what is this right here? If we simplify this, it's 15 over 8 minus 12 over 8, right? So 3 over 8. So x to the 3 over 8. So you could leave it like that. If you wanted to write it in radical form, what would it be? If you wanted to write it in radical form, what's 2 to the 6th?
64.
So it would be 64, the square root of the 9th. I like putting parentheses when I do this because when the radicals are mixed in, it's really hard to sometimes tell them apart with powers. And then what is it?
But you'd be fine if you left it next
Yes,
to the form?
yes.
Okay.
Generally speaking, this is exactly what I want right here. This is, I'd much prefer that if the, but for example, I could ask you, I could say specifically write your final answer. I mean, which looks better, the right or the left? I like this a lot better, right? But I just want to show you, some of you did go to radical form, which is totally fine if you so choose. Okay, I'm going to give you one more to work on. Why don't you just find a desk to write on? How about this?
So if I had known that the negative figures
How about this? You want a fun one?
Yeah.
square root over square root over square root. What? I don't know how I feel about that. Square root of x is x. Square root of 2. Oh, no.
Kids, that's the square root of the cube root of the fourth root of x. That is the square root of a third root of a fourth root. Tell me, what does this mean? What does square root mean? What power? Means 1/2 power. So you have the cube root of the fourth root of x to the what power? What does cube root mean? So you have the fourth root of x to the 1/3 all to the, what does fourth root mean?
1/4.
To the 1/4, to the 1/3, to the, what do you do with powers of powers?
Multiply.
So it's x to the 1/4 times 1/3 times 1/2. X to the 1/24.
Sure, okay. We got the X right.
Okay, next one, last one here. You want another fun one like that? No? No?
That was not fun.
Oh, it was fun. You liked it. How about this? P to the negative 1/4, Q to the negative 3/2, all over 3 to the negative 1, P to the negative 2, Q to the negative 2/3, all to the negative 2 power.